All right, welcome back, everybody, to conversation number 81. We're going to talk imagination engine, generative AI as a strategic power tool. But before we start, as always, let's start by thanking our sponsors. And we want to start by thanking Conductrix, who've been with us from the very beginning. Thank you, Matt, Nate, Ezekiel, Ashley, and the entire team at Conductrix so much for supporting the TLC. And this month, we can all look forward to some new newsletters content from Conductrix for the first time. So get ready for that. And we also want to welcome our newsletter sponsors who are joining EPO, Growth Book, as I just mentioned, Conductrix, and AB Smartly. So thank you all so much for providing thought leadership to our community. We look forward to reading and sharing your educational content with our TLC readers. Last but not least, thank you, Eddie Aguilar and Blazing Growth. Before I introduce Jim, I mean, not that he needs much introduction, but a few exciting announcements. Like I mentioned last time and the time before that, everybody knows Experimentation Island registration has kicked off. We have some updates and we'll be announcing them every couple of weeks on the website, so make sure you're checking that out. We have new speakers that are going to be up on the website in the next few days, so make sure you check it out. And with this being our first event, we do have limited tickets, and I do mean limited. We're only going to have like 175 people there. So if you're planning to attend, but you haven't registered yet, you need to get your tickets soon. You can go to bit.ly, EI 2025, or just scan that QR code. And registrations are going really fast. So go ahead and do that. Also, TLC Learning Group for prepping Google Analytics data in BigQuery. That's prep, bit.ly prep GA. And that QR code, if you have any questions about it, you can reach out to Ken Williams. And then, like I told you last time, and you learned about from Ruben, we're launching a Building Award-Winning Experimentation Culture course. We're going to talk about process, data and stats, psychology, and UX. That starts September 30th. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Ruben or me. Happy to answer any of those questions. And that's bit.ly/AB culture. So what can we say about Jim? Well, Jim founded the Marketing Analytics Summit in 2002. He co-founded the Digital Analytics Association in 2004. He's written 12 books. His latest deep dive is all in on AI, written and teaching, including amazing workshops on AI. And if you haven't been part of Jim's analytic cohorts, you're really missing out. I created a bit.ly for him, bit.ly analytics cohort. They really make a difference in your career. I highly, highly recommend them. He's personally mentored so much of this industry, including me. He could easily claim and brag about starting or helping restart so many of our careers, but he never does. Some of us several times over. Instead of bragging about the impact he has, he does it out of true generosity and a desire to help others succeed. Be like Jim, and better yet, learn from him. And with that, teach us, Jim. I'm going to pass it over to you.
Aw shucks, I guess. That was one of the nicest introductions I've ever had. So thank you. Let's see, the slideshow version is here. And so that should be on everybody's screen. Kelly, can you confirm?
I can confirm.
Groovy. And I can control it here. So, before we recorded, I mentioned that I saw the names of some of the people who are participating here, and this is an intimidating audience. So, caveat, I'm going to assume that there is somebody on this call that doesn't know anything. And so I'm going to start from the beginning. It's not going to take a long time, but I want to make sure that everybody is up to speed appropriately. Punchline, for those of you who are like wondering if they should stick around. What I want to talk about is going from deterministic to probabilistic to linguistic and how computing has changed. I responded to this personally the same way I responded when I first saw the World Wide Web in April of 1993, when Mosaic was released. It blew my mind completely. And same thing when I saw ChatGPT in November of 22, it blew my mind. It just like, this is going to change everything. And this is what I think is kind of the crux of it. Again, this is the punchline. Automating mundane tasks, awesome. Productivity, expediency, doing things faster, doing more things, that's great. But this is a different kind of computing, and it's going to change our ability to create. This is the crux of what I want to talk about. Let's get out of the way the fact that it is not going to destroy humanity, and it's not going to create utopia. So somewhere in between, there will be good, there will be bad. End of prologue. I want to talk about what it is. In the early 90s, when I was explaining the World Wide Web and the impact that it was going to have on marketing, I had to describe to people what packet switching was all about. So they understood that there was a difference between telephone, broadcast, and web. It's a different animal. So this is what I want to do. I want to talk about what it is and how it works. And then its impact. So what does that mean to you? And then what do you do about it? And then what comes after that? One other little preamble, there's a lot of hype, but guess what? There's a reason for it. Some of it's ridiculous. Some of it is ill thought through, but 90% of the hype is legit. So it literally, sliced bread ain't got nothing on this. Number two, you will not lose your job. The person who uses AI will take the job of the person who does not. A job is a bundle of tasks. AI is really good at some tasks, but you are responsible for deciding which tasks to do in which order, and that is the job. So you are keeping your job. And then finally, I'm going to hit you with a whole bunch of stuff. So don't try to write everything down. Yes, you can have a copy of the slides. Yes, it's being recorded. But in the meantime, just sit back, relax, let it just kind of wash over you. It'll be okay. What this is requires a little bit of history. And we've all seen Midjourney and Dolly and all of those illustrations. I'm going to go old school when I talk about the history of computing by going old school. History of computing, okay? Starts with code. It is about specific language. It is telling the computer exactly what it's supposed to do. And if it does it, that's great. If it doesn't, it get error messages. And if it's really bad, you get a blue screen of death. And that's too bad. Then we have applications. We use the code to write software that says, oh, I don't have to know how to code. I just put in variables and the relationship between them, and it does the calculation. And if I change the variable, it changes the calculation. And awesome. That's terrific. And then we move to probabilistic that says, here's the data that we have. Here is a model of the data that we have. And if we project out where it might go, we can predict. And that's really interesting. It is a fragile model built by humans filled with human assumptions. So if it's better than flipping a coin, it's useful, but it's still awkward and has limited time span because everything changes all the time. Then we went to the height of probabilistic with machine learning that says we're going to give the machine all of this data, and we're going to let the machine look at the data and derive things and derive structure and relationships from the data. Now, machine learning drops into three categories. Supervised, you know the answer. Here's a million pictures of cats labeled as a cat. You ask the machine, you give it a picture it's never seen. Is that a cat? And it says yes. And is that a cat? And it says no, because it has looked at a million other pictures. So supervised is you know the answer already, and you are supervising the machine, you're training it. Unsupervised is you don't know the answer. It's like find an anomaly, find a correlation. And it says, oh, ice cream causes drowning. You go, well, wait a minute. Actually, it's true that when ice cream sales go up, drownings go up, but there is something else going on. So it's not causative. Although shoes causing headaches, I can attest that this is true. It's August, and here in Santa Barbara, we have a week-long fiesta to celebrate our Mexican heritage. And every time I wake up wearing my shoes, I have a horrible headache. Now, something else is at stake here. Something else is going on, but it looks like it's causative. Now, Nicolas Cage, definitely a monster because the number of people who drown by falling into a pool correlates directly with the films he's been in. The man is a monster. All right. It's finding relationships. It is finding correlations, not causation. Fair enough. Supervised, you know the answer. Unsupervised, you don't know the answer. You're just asking stuff. And then reinforcement is, here's what I want you to accomplish. There's no, I mean, put the right message in front of the right person at the right time. There's no actual factual answer. There's just better than others. And then it learns over time, oh, I should do this and I should do that. So that's machine learning. So we've gone from deterministic of code to probabilistic with machine learning, and then this weird new thing called large language models, which is linguistic. This is not what we're used to. This is the machine statistically guessing the next word. So if I said, because we're all English-speaking people, the cat in the, well, it could be in the tree or the chair or the window. No, we know it's the cat in the hat. It's just statistically the most likely next word you're going to say. All right, that's cheating because it's a book title. If I said you could knock me over with a, you look at those and you go, well, they're all, yeah, no, it's feather. Yeah, we know it's feather. And that's all it's doing. Literally, that's all it's doing. It's guessing the next word. Now, this is linguistic. There's also artistic, text to image and to video and to music and blah, blah, blah. Text to image. So this is meta.ai, which is the mind-blowing bit here is that it guesses what you want as you type. So imagine a horse on a unicycle with a accordion smoking a pipe. I mean, it just that as fast as you type, that happens. Okay. That's artistic. I'm going to go back to linguistic because I was an English literature major and not a photography and art major. So I can't make great pictures because I don't have the language, but I did study Shakespeare. So I have lots of adjectives and verbs. So I'm going to use ChatGPT as my example. There's, whatever model floats your boat is fine. But I want to start with this thing called GPT. Like, what is that?
I had a granola bar this morning. I had a granola bar.
Thank you, Chris. So GPT is a generative pre-trained transformer. Okay, what's that? It generates. That is its job. It doesn't store and remember and retrieve. It generates, and that's important. We'll come back to that often. And it's pre-trained on all of the information on the internet gets sucked in. Hundreds of thousands of books get sucked in, and it has billions of words. So the English language has about 1 million words. This is trillions of words as they have been written. And the relationships get put together as statistical numbers or vectors. And then you can do calculations on them. So what is a vector? Cat is a thing. It's an animal, right? Lives, breathes, eats, sleeps. That's one vector. A cat is also a house pet. So that's a different vector. It is related to bird and related to fish in a different way. It is related to language, like Jim G is a cool cat and June Dershowitz is a hip cat and Kelly is a crazy cat. I want to party with all of you guys. Also, we know cats are trying to kill you. And it's an internet meme because the internet is just absolutely filled with cats. There's no way around it. That's just why they built the internet. So these are vectors. And in fact, it's a lot more sophisticated than that because this is a two-dimensional image of vectors, but you can do three-dimensional. In fact, you can do 27-dimensional or 1,000 dimensions, which can't be visualized in PowerPoint. So we'll just accept the fact that a word is connected to a whole bunch of other words to different weights in different degrees. And you can calculate these vectors, and that's what the pre-training does. Now we get to transformer. Transformer is the fact that it is going to transform what it thinks about the word in front of it. So if I said we need a tie, it's going to guess that we need a tie to have tea at the Ritz. But if I said we need a tie in order to stay in the game, oh, it changes its mind about, it transforms its opinion about what the word tie means. Unless I said, oh, we need a tie in order not to get my hair caught in the machine. Not such a problem for me, but you know, others. If I went to school in the morning to get my degree, my parents were very proud, or to pick up my daughter and her friends were there, or to teach a course and one of the students gave me an apple, or to meet with the teachers to talk about my daughter. It changes the meaning of what came before. It can, using machine learning, change its mind. So it is pre-trained, but now it needs to be tuned because we want to give it specific rules to be careful. And ChatGPT, OpenAI produced their model spec a few months back. It includes specific rules. Don't break the law. Don't tell people how to build bombs or poisons. Don't do anything that's not safe for work. Understand that people care about their privacy. And all of those rules that they've written are fine-tuning. And you can fine-tune. Now, those are general rules, but you can fine-tune for whatever purpose you want. Human resources, information technology, operations, etc. Next level, embeddings. In your particular industry, you have jargon. You have your own way of, the words have meanings, but they mean something different in medicine or law or chemistry. So you create a small vector database that sits on top. And then we're going to use retrieval augmented generation. So you've trained on everything that's on the internet and all those books. We've given you some rules. We've told you about our jargon. Now I want you to look at these specific documents and I want to ask you questions about these specific documents. And now we can do prompt engineering. Now it's your turn to go in and interact with this thing. You interact with it well when you realize it is not a database, it's not a search engine, it's not a reasoning system, a calculator, or an encyclopedia. It doesn't do that. It generates stuff. Caveat, this thing is moving, this is being recorded in August of 2024, so I will say that it's not any of these things yet. They're working very hard on it. It'll happen. Okay, so that's what it is. That's what a GPT is all about. So what? I mean, all it's doing is guessing the next word, and yet the outcome is a bit mind-blowing. It'll fool you. You will think that it is smart and it's reasoning and it has common sense. It doesn't have any of those things. Okay, yet, but still, it doesn't. It is a machine. Now, humans, I have a feeling and I have meaning and I'm trying to find the right words. Large language models have the words, but they don't understand, right? They don't comprehend. It looks like it, but it doesn't. And it's important to understand because literally this is just a tool. We have to learn how to use it. If you think different, if you unlock your mind and think differently about computing, you'll discover how it can be useful. Because the first time we all used it, it's like, oh, it must be Google, right? So I type something in and it gives me a crap answer. And it's like, that doesn't work. Yeah, it does. But you have to play with it. You have to figure out what it's doing that's different. You have to experiment with it. Try things, see what it's good at and not good at. For instance, it's bad at the truth because it doesn't know the truth. It just knows what is written statistically most likely, right? It's bad at dealing with bias because if you want a story about a flight attendant and a pilot, the pilot's going to be male, the flight attendant's going to be female, doctor and nurses, same thing. The bias is in the data. That's a problem. So we have to overcome that. And it's bad at math. Again, all of these things at the moment. But don't ask it to do math. Don't ask it to do a question. Ask it for something that is potentially going to be biased. And don't ask it for facts. I was at a conference and I took 3 pictures of the audience, gave it to ChatGPT and said, these are 3 different sections of the auditorium. How many people are in the room? And it said, well, in the first picture, there are 10 rows of 10 people. So that's 150 people. No, it's not. And the second one, same thing, 10 rows, 10 people, 150 people. Third one, same thing. Therefore, there are 150 people in the room. Wrong on so many levels. Silly me for asking for a question of fact. Okay, so what is it good at? It's really good at teaching. I want to learn how to code in Python. Where do I start? I want to learn how to sing in harmony. Where do I start? It's a great coach. I'd like to run a marathon and I'm a couch potato. What should I do first? Get up out of your chair and go for a walk. How long will it take me to get from couch potato to actually finishing a marathon? About 1.5 years if you start today. Okay, coach, good. But the big one, the really exciting one is brainstorming. It is a mentor you can bounce ideas off of forever and it will never get tired, right? So that's what it is. And that's why it's important. Now, how do you deal with it? Well, prompt engineering, right? And a lot of what I'm going to say, you've heard it before, but maybe repetition has value. So it's a conversation. You know, if you ever worked with an intern and you find the brightest intern, sharp, really intelligent, speaks very well, doesn't know anything. Yeah, they've got book learning, but they don't know your industry. They don't know your company. When you say, I need a report, they don't know what a report looks like. You've got to explain it to them. Same thing. To give it lots of context, this is a conversation with a fascinating stranger, which means you have to judge whether you trust what they're saying or not, in a quiet bar at closing time. We don't know. I mean, it's fascinating, but it's not trust but verify. It's just verify. It makes things up. That's what hallucinations are. It generates the next word without any regard to truth. So what do? You give it a persona. You give it all the context that you can. Tell it to take its time and think step by step. Give it examples, right? The more context you can give it, the better. Details matter. This is a document I want you to consider. I want you to go look out on the internet and find more information about this. I want you to go through these steps to figure out what you're doing. Here are some examples of the output I want, and I want you to be very succinct, or I want 8,000 words. You choose. So you give it language that is specific to your company. You have to be consistent because frankly, all of these words can mean the same thing, right? It's the person who is at your website. Different departments in your company use these things interchangeably. You will get in trouble if you use them interchangeably because the machine is trying to relate it to how close that word is to other words in the lexicon. All right, we're going to give it a persona. Who are you? Oh, you are a job interviewer. You're a debater. You're an executive at my company. And I want you to do this thing and try to be specific. If you have a job, you can ask it what tasks make up that job, but you want to give it a task, specific task, and you want it to respond in a specific tone, your choice. Funny is usually a serious fail because that is a really human issue. And so you are a master digital analyst. I want you to deliver a presentation about the differences between last month and this month because the client wants to make the website more customer focused. And I want you to use the on-site search keywords report to do it. That's a task, right? Very specific. Okay, here's a gold star clue. Let's think step by step and use chain of thought process. We're not sure why they work, but what it does is it instructs the machine to use more cycles, to spend more milliseconds on this issue, and it ends up giving you better answers. And if you want to get really deep into it, it's not just chain of thought, but it's also tree of thought and graph of thought. And yeah, a lot of research on that you can do. Here's a weird one. You can threaten it, like, you got to do better. Or what's out there in the world is that you get better answers when you encourage people. So my example is when Google Analytics said, oh, we're getting rid of conversions. And I said, oh, I want an image of a key event and be literal. And it said, it seems there were issues generating an image based on the prompt. So my fault. Couldn't create an image, try something different. And I said, yes, you can, try again. And it said, oh, okay. And there's a literal key event. All I did was say, try again. So prompting, I'll step out of it because Google and Anthropic, there's a great YouTube channel called Blazing Zebra, lots of ideas on how to do prompting, which I think is a momentary skill. It's like when personal computers first came out, you needed to write basic programming, or there were no programs for it. And now there are. So go learn prompt engineering. It'll be necessary for the next 18 months. But here's where things get really fun. Turn it around. Hey, ChatGPT, ask me a bunch of questions about what I'm trying to accomplish regarding audience and tone and content and anything else that will help you produce valuable results. Ask it to ask you questions. After every prompt, give a normal response and then criticize yourself harshly. Tell me why the response is bad. Score it from 1 to 10. If it's below 9, improve it until it hits a 9 and then show me the answer. I'm probably the oldest one on this call, so I remember Henry Kissinger. The story was his speechwriter came to him and said, I've got your speech ready for next week, and put it in his in basket. And he came back the next day and said, what did you think of the speech? And Kissinger said, is that the best you can do? I said, oh, well, let me take it back and I'll give another crack at it. Brought it in at the end of the day, came in the next morning and said, so the speech. Kissinger said, is that the best you can do? Well, okay, I'll go back. Did it again 5 times. And finally the guy said, God damn it, yes, I have worked my ass off on this. This is the best I can do. And Kissinger said, okay, then now I'll read it. ChatGPT does the same thing. You can say, is that the best you can do? Why did you say it that way? Is there some other better way to say it? Is there a better, more creative way to say it? What innovative principles from the private sector might be applied to this government problem? What potential future scenarios I should prepare for? What are some unintended consequences? How can I deconstruct this problem? How are these concepts connected together? What does it look like if we did it upside down and backwards? You can ask these bizarre questions, these creativity questions. Help me think clearer using first principles. What is a more creative solution? And once you've gotten the hang of all of that, you're going to find specific tasks that it's going to be good at. And then you're going to create your own GPT to do that specific thing, specific bots for specific purposes. Because instead of crafting the perfect prompt, you're going to create a GPT that will remember all of its instructions that you can use over and over again. You give it a name, a description, you give it specific instructions. It will create, if you have some conversation starters, some classic questions, that's great. It'll create them automatically. If there's some knowledge you want it to have, you can upload files. You can tell it that you want it to do web browsing and create images and use code interpreter, and then create your own. So one of the first ones that I created was, here's a question, here's a problem I'm having. What advice would I get from these people? And if you create it, you can identify your boss and your boss's boss. And if you want to take it all the way to an extreme, this is just the beginning of this month, they did an experiment saying, oh, you know what? We can do social experiments on artificial audiences and the results are actually interesting, right? So it's verify, right? Don't just take what it says. But if you try 10 different experiments, it'll tell you which ones are going to yield results and which ones will come out 50-50. That's really interesting. So at this point, you're going, well, wait a minute. This machine can do an awful lot. I'm a little worried about my job now. It's like, don't need to. 3 things that we need you for. What problem are you trying to solve, or question do you have that you want answered? What data should be considered? And does the output pass the smell test? What problem, what task, what question? That's the job, right? Answering the question is the task. Which data should be considered? Because yes, it's been pre-trained on all this stuff, but I want you to look at this spreadsheet. I want you to look at this Google Analytics report. I want you to look at this annual report from the corporation that I'm doing this work for. That's the data that I want you to consider. And as the output, does it pass the smell test? Because humans understand context better than the machine. The machine says tiger. Human says, wait a minute, context, it's a dog. Looks like a tiger if you're like squinting. But a human, in a blink of an eye, can go, oh no, that's not right. Somebody should lose their job for this. I recently went to very nice, fancy hospital. Everybody's fine. It was a good visit. But when I went into the men's room, I found this. And I couldn't believe my eyes. And I thought, how on earth? And wait a minute, does it really do that every single time? Yes, it does. I did it like 10 times. And I thought, oh, I need to take a video of this. And then I came out and my wife said, are you okay? You were in there for a long time. I said, look at the video. That's the smell test. And this is where your knowledge and experience is absolutely necessary. You will keep your job. 3 things, however, to be worried about. Number 1 is bias in the data. That's just the nature of the beast, and it's insidious. Number 2 is believing it because it hallucinates. So your knowledge is important because you can recognize bias and you can recognize, if I say, write me an 8-page treatise on Napoleonic Wars, I don't know. I've never studied Napoleon, so I'll just take it as fact, and that would be a huge mistake. The final danger is bad people doing bad things with power tools, and that's just the nature of humans, I'm afraid. The question often comes up about ethical use. Now, when I hear ethical use, I think of bias in the data. Other people think, oh, no, you're cheating by using AI. And I think, you're using it wrong. That's not appropriate. So my perspective is there's the time and effort it takes to create something, and there's the value of the thing that you created. The value of the thing you created is based on what you know and how you got there and how good you are at your job, and are the results useful, right? Regardless of how long it took you to make it. So if I use a spoon or a food processor, you don't care, right? If I use a campfire or a microwave oven, you can't tell. It doesn't matter. If I use an abacus or a spreadsheet, it is immaterial to the output. And I say the same thing about AI. It is a tool. If what I create using AI is bland and boring, that's bad. If I get something really terrific, that's good. The way I'm going to get really terrific is by taking the output and adding my knowledge to it and fixing it. And that's why I say that the most powerful new capability is, it's great that we can do things faster, but it's this creative potential thing. It's about thinking different. And then it's about creating actions that connect GPTs to APIs. You connect GPTs together, like do this thing and then hand it off to that GPT, that's great. But then you give it access to APIs and you give it agency. So you create your own that could be helping you with HR or scheduling or et cetera, et cetera. As long as you know it ain't human. We think so. It feels like it, but don't go there. Don't be fooled. All right. You now know what a GPT is. You understand my perspective on going from deterministic to probabilistic to linguistic. I am all for efficiency and optimization. Yay. You know a few things about prompt engineering, and now you can make your own GPTs. What comes after that is interesting, because I'm going to start to create all of my own GPTs. I am going to create my own agent that looks after me. And it's not necessarily from Google or from Microsoft or from IBM or my phone company. It's mine, and it knows everything about me. And I'm going to give my doctor access to all of my medical records and my CPA access to all my financial records, but not vice versa. I want Amazon to know if my credit card is stolen and I have a new number. I don't want to have to go to, recently did this, to 100 different websites and update all of my information again. I don't want to do that. I want to have one place where I update it in one place, and those people whom I have given access can have access. And it will be proactive on my behalf, to the point where my bot will say, Jim, I've been listening to things in the kitchen, and I can tell your dishwasher is about to fail. And I went out shopping and I found 12 models that will fit in your kitchen. 5 will fit the style of your kitchen. 3 will fit your budget. And 2 will fit your schedule. And I've already, it's like they're pennies different. So I've negotiated the best price already. The question is about installing it on Wednesday. Do you want the one with the most best reviews on Wirecutter and Consumer Reports, or the one with the most stars on social media? And is it okay to install it on Wednesday? Yes, no. That will be shopping. That means marketers will need to create bots that can communicate with consumer bots and do that negotiation, instead of having Google be the intermediary and we're trying to interpret intent from search terms. This will be a bot that will actively go out and say, I am shopping for a dishwasher. What do you got? Let's negotiate. At the moment, it's not doing this yet, but it will. Because as amazing as this stuff is, this is the dumbest AI you will ever use. When ChatGPT 5 comes out, prepared to have your mind blown. Don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be remarkable, because all of this stuff that the data scientists have been doing, they created it, and that's great. And it does all this amazing output, but they are working overtime to make it more deterministic, because we want to be able to trust it like we trust our computers to do the things we expect computers to do. And the value we get out of that is very straightforward. It's all about automation and efficiency. That's great. But I say, let's think more about this linguistic creative side. Let's think of the ways that we can use this, that we have not used a computer before. I want you to open your mind. New solutions, non-obvious insights, process improvement. That's a little thing from Mr. Engelbart, Douglas Engelbart created the mouse, right, back in 1969. And this is the idea that I have a process, a business process, and I have a process to watch process improvement, right? This is my process improvement process. And then I have a process to see if my process improvement process, yeah. Douglas Engelbart did take acid, it's true. But still, this is where we're going, right? You can think bigger. You can ask different kinds of questions. So we're used to business goals, and we're measuring make more, spend less, make customers happy. We're measuring marketing goals of raise awareness and, yeah, make more sales. But also there's this measuring the value of creativity, to which I put together a white paper on how do you measure the value of good ideas. And the short answer is, did you come up with more of them? Are they different from each other? Right? The more variable they are, the better. Are they original? Do they have potential impact? And are they feasible? I mean, if your great idea requires that I control gravity, we're not there yet. If your great idea requires that I go against corporate culture, we're not there yet. So measuring good ideas is what this new device is going to allow us to do. Hey, ChatGPT, give me hypotheses that are more reasonable and likely to succeed. Hey, ChatGPT, help me think clearer. What else should I have asked? What is a more creative solution? And here's a fun one. I am going to give a presentation to these three people. One is Brett Hurt, who created a web analytics tool early on and is now running data.world. And then also Scott Galloway, who's an amazing thought leader. And also Ms. Pardo, who is the president-elect of Mexico, right? Because everybody needs a role model. Here are three people that I need to persuade. So I'm going to give you their blogs and videos and speeches and their LinkedIn profiles. I want you to create a persona for each one. I want you to show them my PowerPoint deck. And here's a video of me presenting my PowerPoint. And then I want to see what questions and comments they have so I can go back and answer those questions before they ask them, and then have them talk about me after I've left the room and tell me, how can I be more persuasive? Specifically, what vocabulary should I use that will persuade each one of these people? This is all about asking better questions. Yes, we believe that we need the best technology. Yes, we believe that we need the best algorithm. Yes, we absolutely need the best data. It's really good if we have a good strategy and a clear vision, but guess what? It's the best questions. The one with the best questions wins. So, hey, ChatGPT, can you help me ask better questions? Kelly, you might guess that that means we're at Q&A. So thank you for sticking with me so far. Open for questions.
Awesome. Well, so far we have a thought that was shared by June. She said interacting with Gen AI requires different kinds of human creativity, and we're all just figuring out how to do, personally speaking, and Jim's guidance is so helpful, which I completely agree.
And Jim, I wrote that before you ended with your punchline. It's about asking better questions, sort of midway through, like recognizing kind of how hard it is and how different it is to interact with Gen AI and ask the kinds of questions that give me the kind of output that I need and that's helpful. That's hard to do. I'd also like to think that the providers of Gen AI are going to make it easier for humans to work with it in a way that will guide us toward producing the outcomes that we want. And you didn't really speak about that. Maybe it's a different thing, but like, well, you actually did speak about it very briefly, like that human computer interfaces will change perhaps in reaction to the ways that we're now expected to interact.
I think that prompt engineering is going to be short-lived. The way that drag and drop took over from the command line, what the providers, what these model builders will realize is it's not about me prompting the machine just so. It's about me asking the machine, I'm trying to do this thing. What do you need to know? Ask me 7 questions, right? In fact, a standard custom instruction that I have is whenever I give you a prompt, ask me 3 questions about that prompt to clarify, to help you make a better result. Eventually, I'm going to say, run payroll. And it's going to look at who my employees are, what states and countries they live in, what are the tax laws, how do I distribute the money, how do I put aside some in a 401k and some for medical, and it will run payroll. And instead of writing a piece of software that it will then use from now on, I'll just wait, and the next month I'll say, run payroll. That will be the user interface. Hey, Zoom, help me figure out how to turn off the waiting room. Will be the user.
I did it, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It only took 30 minutes.
So I think that the instruction for us is, rather than try to get specific output from it, treat it as a colleague, treat it as a collaborator, treat it as a mentor that can give you ideas. It's not going to give you exactly what you need, but it will give you lots of ideas.
Yeah, when I talk to Jenny, I say please and thank you, and I realize just how silly that is.
Actually, it's not.
Oh.
You do get, again, statistically, you get it when you think about the corpus of all that's been written, including fiction. People who say please and thank you and have social niceties get better responses. So it's statistically the right thing to do. And of course, it's also when our AI overlords take over, they'll say, well, you were nice to me, so I won't kill you first.
Good to know. Thank you. I'm
I'm
gonna
not
open the
gonna
floor to other
lie.
people.
I often end up having cursing conversations with the Alexa.
Yeah.
Kelly,
Chris
I
asks,
literally just put that in the chat. You should hear how I talk to Siri.
I
Oh, yeah.
mean,
You know what?
anyway,
Any minute, and I don't know why it's taken so long, but any minute, Siri and Alexa and anything like that will be what it was supposed to be 5 years ago.
it's
It will
like
be
you
able to
give the exact same prompt. I listen to ocean sounds to sleep. Shh, it just went off. And I say the exact same prompt every single night at the same time. And it's like, while you're listening to that, would you like to play a game? I'm like,
No.
oh, play a game. Like, are you kidding? Anyway,
Yeah,
Chris asks, if you have a natural language conversation with the machine, is it still a prompt?
absolutely. 100%. That's what a prompt is.
Interesting.
It's prompt is just a different word from instruction because data scientists or software engineers know what instruction means. That is a term of art. So they come up with a different word.
Florin asks, somewhat tangential thought, as a sometimes radical economist, I look at innovation through the lens of property rights and economic power. For instance, genetically modified organisms, offshore outsourcing, automation have increased inequality by giving more economic power to people and organizations who already have a lot of it.
I'm sorry, did you just say the rich get richer and the poor get poorer? Twas always thus.
So to Jim's point, you won't lose your job, but your boss might go, I could totally do your job myself with ChatGPT. Spoiler alert, they couldn't. So
Well,
I'm going to cut your salary.
okay, two different things. One is inequality, and you know, there are like 40 families that own 90% of the value of the United States. It's crazy. And that is a very difficult problem to solve. That is a sociological problem that we've got to work on. The other one is, will I lose my job? Again, one of the advantages of age is having seen this movie before. And I'm of an age where I had a secretary. Literally, I would handwrite out letters. She would type them up. I would edit them. She would type a final with a carbon copy for the file, right? And that was how we communicated. And then we got computers. We got desktop computers, and we didn't need secretaries anymore. They understood I was in sales. Those secretaries understood the sales job well enough that some became salespeople, some became personal assistants, some went into HR. They all knew enough about how the company worked that they were already pre-trained and valuable, and now they just moved up to being more valuable. So I think it was Monsanto that said, we're all in on AI. We're going to do 1,000 people's worth of work with 100 people. We're not going to just do 100 people's worth of work with 10. We're going to do better, more. And that's the exciting part. I have a spreadsheet. That doesn't mean that I am no longer a valuable bookkeeper. It just means I can do my job better.
And faster. Yeah. I've talked to several people who have talked about the fact that the amount of work they can do has gone up. And so they've actually done hiring because of AI.
Right.
Now, there are people that are greedy and small-minded that go the other direction, of course. So change.
That's a corporate culture question. If you were getting ahead in the stock market by cutting things to the bone, well, good luck with that. And
You've got the wrong employer.
and yeah, and I'm glad I don't work at Intel.
Any final questions? And while you all are looking at those questions, I want to thank Jim. It was just as enlightening and inspiring this time as it was the first time. A few more added components that either were new or I didn't remember from last time. Fantastic talk. Jim is going to, has already sent me the link. He's uploaded it. I'm going to share that link in the TLC calls channel after this. So if you didn't grab all your screenshots, don't worry. We're going to share a link to the deck. But I'll remind everybody, for those of you who missed the TLC Mentorship Summit that was at Experimentation Elite, all of the speakers, well, 5 of the 6 mentors that mentees that were there are coming to share their talks starting. Let's see, the first one is September 13th, and the second one is September 27th. So you'll see Vignesh Loganathan, Eltine Vanderveer, Stephen Situ, Georgiana Hunter Cousins, and Mariana Osterwick. Oh my gosh, sorry, Mariana. I just totally messed that up. But anyway, all of them are coming to share their talks, and they're so good. Please come and support them. They're really fantastic talks. They got great feedback at Experimentation Elite, and they're really, really, really inspiring. So I hope you all can make it on September 13th and 27th. And then Joe, formerly of PBS, now poor guy, slumming it over at where's he at, Jim? The Joe
Smithsonian.
Miskovich is at the
Smithsonian.
Gosh, he's got to go somewhere, I guess. But he's going to do his talk on data literacy above all. So come, and he'll be there October 25th. So see you all. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you again, Jim. And if there are any extra questions that you have, put them over on the TLC calls, and Jim will try to figure out how to use Slack, and we'll all enjoy it.
Old dog, new tricks.
That's right. I mean, come on. You've taught yourself AI. You've taught yourself a lot of new things over the years, Jim, and all of us as well. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.